So if you have this exam in front of you, you have 2 hours to write the exam. However, we are able to give you an extra 30 minutes at the end. If you want to take the extra half hour, everybody's entitled to take the extra half hour, but officially it's designed to take you up to 2 hours. Most of you might finish before the 2 hours, but let's open this booklet and see what's in it. So we're gonna skip the legal part and get to the page I. Right, you see this one? And so it says there 2 hours required, additional time allowed 30 minutes. So you have 2.5 hours. You will have plenty of time. So some of you like to double check your answers. Sure, go ahead and do that. And look at all the units. If you count, how many units do you count here? 6. And you're like, well, I thought there were 7 units. They combine geometry and trigonometry. We haven't covered geometry, but you will see when we go through the booklet that you will actually be able to answer quite a few questions that fall under geometry, because some of it just has to do with triangles. Yeah.
Is this kind of list of is accurate to what the test the exam will take?
Yep.
Like all the suggested time and marks.
Yep. This page will they told us in terms of format you can expect the same. The marks here will depend on the year, but look at the heaviest would be vehicle finance and a mix between home finance and geometry and trigonometry, right? 17, 14, 14, and then you have a little bit of everything else. So, you know, in this case it's a 72 mark test, right? And then let's go over to directions. So see these suggested times are just, that's just what it is, suggested. You probably will take less time in some areas and more time in others. It depends on the question at hand. All right, let's go over to the directions piece. That way, on the day of the test, you'll be anxious, and I will be going over this, and you might not listen. So now is the time where you're like, just take it in, right? Obviously, show all work. They will take off marks if you're supposed to show work and there's nothing, just the final answer. We take off marks there. So especially if it's a 2 or 3 mark question, make sure you show us the work, especially trig. Like you shouldn't just have a number there, which I don't think anybody's going to do that. Formula sheet, use your formula sheet and your study sheet. So the study sheet you can bring in. It doesn't have to be my blue one that I give you. It can just be a piece of loose leaf, but it has to be handwritten. It cannot be photocopied, okay? Both sides completely packed. And the formula sheet, you will get it. If you go to the back of this booklet, at the very back, you just keep flipping. There's your formula sheet right there. I encourage you to go and check it out when you're writing your exam. It could be that something is in there that could give it away, right? Give away an answer. And then look at 1 second here. I'll give you the and the back side of the formula sheet has all the taxation, right? Like what gets taxed both, where do you only pay, right? Like safety, you only pay GST, not PST. So that's there for you to refer to. One thing is different. You notice the PST, it's 7% now. It's not 8%. So obviously this is going to be updated on the one you're writing, because they changed this on July 2019, which is after this booklet was written. That's why this is, so it's technically 7. Okay. Yeah, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Print out my study sheet on the paper that you gave us. So I was able to design my study sheet on Google Docs, and I put your piece of paper through the printer and I printed it onto that.
Yeah, so unfortunately they're very strict about handwritten. They don't want printed materials. Yeah. And the main reason is basically to not mass produce, right? Like so that the teacher can like make one like font 5 and just put everything on there and just print it for everybody. They want you to like develop it yourself. Yeah. So Sure. Yeah. Sure. You can do that if you want. You're going over this right now. Okay. So today is gonna take longer to get started because of all that. You can use a scientific calculator, no graphing calculators. Show complete answers in the space or spaces provided. Provide explanations and justifications. Use a well-organized method to communicate your answer. All of these things you have been doing. Let the mark, this is important, let the mark values of each question guide you in answering the question. So if it's a 2-mark question, there's usually going to be 2 steps minimum to get there, right? Express the answer in decimal and percentage form to at least 2 decimal places when rounding, unless otherwise indicated. This is there because of precision measurement. Remember, in precision measurement, we do not round. And they will tell you that there. So, right, if you go 15 over 29, that's 0.52. But if you're stating it as a percentage, it's 51.72. How so, right? Well, it's almost like you go from your fraction to answer the decimal or the percentage, but you don't go 0.52 and then 52%. That'd be a rounding error. Okay. Yeah, oh yeah, you can write as much as you want. 15 divided by 29 is this, right? So as a decimal, it would be 0.52. As a percentage, it would be 51.72%. Okay, so you got to understand that. Include units in your final answer. It's final answer, right? Some answers are to be given as decimal values. Rounding too early may result in an inaccurate final answer. So full marks will not be given. So that's, and I always showed you how to use all decimals, right? Sine law, cosine law, all of those, I use all decimals. Keep going. This is important, okay? I've been using this terminology, so go to page III. Directing words. So some of them are very self-explanatory, right? Identify or choose, right? So you have to identify or choose the answers from a list. State, watch what it says. It's just a word, sentence, or number without explanation. Maybe we should highlight that part, right? When it says state, you don't really need an explanation. Describe or explain, obviously, those words should tell you, right? So you can use words, symbols, diagrams, charts, graphs, or other methods to clearly show what you're thinking, right? Clearly show what you're thinking. So explanation has to come with it. Justify / support an explanation, information, or evidence that shows why your answer is correct. So it's similar to the previous one, but justifying is like when, let's say you calculate the expected value, right? And you're like, you're expected to lose because it's negative. Okay, you're justifying why you would be losing, okay? Sketch, illustrate, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Calculate, right? You're gonna use formulas, equations, or some kind of calculation to solve a problem. Determine, a verification or confirmation by count, observation, formula, pattern, use of table, etc. So again, these are very similar. And don't sweat it too much, but sometimes students, if you're ever unsure on the test, just come back to this. And so here we're going to tell you to stop. You're not allowed to start just yet, and we'll start the time. Like, let's say it takes us 15 minutes to go over what I just did. Then I put the time on the front, 9:15. You have till 11:15, and we'll give you warnings on a regular basis. Especially after the 1 hour mark, I'll say, okay, it's an hour. Just make sure you stay on track, okay? And then we're going to tell you, okay, now you may start. So before I get going here, notice that every unit is sectioned off. That's kind of nice, right? So let's look. I want you to just look at all the vehicle finance questions. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions. So I want you to just read through them and see like, would I be able to do this? And then I'll go over it with you together in a bit, okay? Like a mall. Okay, legal finance. Before you do this, guys, do you remember how they always say when you're in the shop, like measure twice, cut once? My saying is read twice and then start answering. Because you're going to be thrown off if you miss something. It's like, oh my goodness, I have to erase this whole thing. If you will literally feel like you just wasted time. And then you start getting into a cycle where you might panic. So just grab your highlighter, maybe have, at least 2 highlighters ready on that day. So Marjorie borrows, okay, so Marjorie borrows $18,000 to finance the purchase of a car. Okay, so we're talking loans here, right? I would probably say write that down, loan. If you borrow, then that's a loan. She makes monthly car payments, right? So monthly payments of $325 over the period of 6 years. Calculate, so we're going to have to use some formulas, right? Some kind of number crunching here. Calculate the total finance charge, or what else does it say? Total interest, right? Total interest. I have used finance charge a number of times, so you should know that finance charge is also interest. Total interest she will pay for the loan. Do you have this formula on your study sheet? Yeah? I hope so. So what are they asking for? Total interest. What is that formula again? You take your payment, you multiply it by 12 months, right? That would be like how much you paid for a year. And then it asks for the number of years. That's the formula. You don't need to do this on the exam, but I will do it because we're learning here still. So total interest is, what do we call this bracket here? Anybody have that on there? Yeah, sorry, what would this number, what would we call this, or I? Who gets this money? Who gets the payments? The bank. So you're making payments over 12 months, that's a year. You just multiply it by the number of years. This is total paid to the bank. Total paid to bank. And what else do we need to do? Subtract the 18,000, which we called the loan. Yes, thank you. This is the formula that you should have used in this case. And you might be like, well, Mr. Dirks, we didn't calculate the payment. Yes, they gave it to you, right? So it's not always going to be necessarily the way I have it in the notes, where it's like, find the payment, find total interest, right? And it's not asking for the interest paid on the first month, correct? It's not. And I will give you a little secret here. What I've noticed is that, you know how vehicle finance and home finance, they both have loans, like one has mortgages and one has loans? When they don't ask for something here, it tends to show up in home finance under mortgages. That's what I've tended to notice, okay? So you might have to calculate the payment in the home finance section. Just a heads up. I'm not going to put money down on it, but okay, so payment is $325. And I don't want you to be overwhelmed today, okay? I just want you to kind of be a bit of a sponge and just take in what I'm talking about. Borrows $18,000. Question, is it possible that she had a down payment? Yeah, but we don't know how much, right? All we know is that she's borrowing $18,000, which is the important number in this case.
18,000 is probably minus the
Exactly. It's already like to buy a car. So this already has taxes in it. It has the down payment taken off of it. We're not told the story. It's like all we care about is that 18,000 is what is borrowed, okay? So that's important. I don't know if you want to add that to your notes, but I'm trying to paint you a big picture here. That's why I take my time with this one. Okay, let's calculate this. Do some calculating. To stay awake, I would recommend you actually punch in these numbers. And before we answer this, I want you to understand what's happening here. The bank is always in the business of making money. So it should make sense that when you're done your loan, you will have paid back more than what you borrowed. And so that difference is your interest, right? So TI, I'm just going to go minus 18,000. That's $5,400. Mr. Jackson, do I need the two zeros here like that? No, you don't really need that, but I just do it because I'm used to it, and a dollar sign. So if you missed a dollar sign, that's half a mark deduction. Okay, so you don't want to do that. And this is a good habit. Circle the number that answers the question. Okay. I'll give you some scenarios here. Let's say you forgot to subtract by 18,000. I think you get 1 out of 2 here on this one. I would have to go back on my notes when I got trained. But so 1 mark deduction if you forgot the 18,000. Okay, so kind of have to just be careful there. Okay, so that's this one done. Let's move on. It took us a bit longer, but that's because I'm explaining it. Next, this one, just to be honest, a lot of students found this one difficult. I remember that. Can I ask you to just watch the 3 marks? You see 3 marks here? That means that this whole page is going to be worth 3 marks. Okay? Morning. You've got the booklet right there. Okay, so I'm curious here. So let's read this first. Maria is buying a new vehicle. So that's probably important to maybe take note of. Buying a new vehicle. After making a down payment, Maria finances the remaining balance through her bank. The table below shows the details of the purchase. Okay. It says calculate the total amount that will be paid to the bank. Total amount that will be paid to the bank. How in the world will you do this one? All you have is on this table, right? On this page. And I'll tell you that this one doesn't necessarily have a formula to do this one. So what I would say is, okay, let's look at what we have. The vehicle price. When you buy a vehicle, what should you add to it first before you even start taking off a down payment? Would you agree with me that you should probably add taxes before you do anything? Yes. So why don't we do this? I have in my note here, 29,000. I will add taxes to it, 3,770. This is the tax. By the way, I have to tell you this because you might think, where did the 3,770 come from? Because the province is very careful with what they're doing. This exam gets read by a bunch of teachers, and then it's actually given to a class, a random class in Manitoba, to actually write it. And then they analyze to see if the questions were fair, and then you guys get to write it. Okay, so they go through quite a process. Okay, so 29,000. What were the taxes this year? Because when it's a brand new vehicle, you pay both PST and GST, correct? And this year, taxes were 13%. So let's figure 13%. That's 3,770. That's where that number comes from. But you didn't really need to do what I just did. I just want you to know where that number comes from. Okay? So let's add the taxes. What are we at? 32,770. So this number is taken care of, correct? What would you do next in the process? When you go to the bank, what would you do with the down payment? Take it off, right? So we're going to go minus the down payment. Mr. Dirksen, what if I had taken the 8,000 off right away? That would have been correct as well. For sure. I'm just logically walking through this way. This is kind of what I would do if I had to come up with how much I want to borrow, okay? So 32,770 minus 8 grand, that's 24,770. And what would you do with the finance charge or the interest? That's basically what the bank is going to charge you for the loan. You would add this number to this 2386. This is the interest. Take this, and that's 27,156. So this is how much you will have paid the bank in total. And I will walk you through it one more time. Why is that so? Because before you borrow money, you first need to buy the car, you need to pay your taxes, you're going to subtract your down payment, you're going to go to the bank and say, hey, I want a loan for 24,770, and they're going to say, sure. And this question did the math already, saying that after, 48 months, you're going to have paid 2386 in interest. So this is how much you will have paid the bank at the end, right? The loan, let's call this the loan. This is actually the loan here. You're going to add the interest, so this is how much you will pay the bank at the end of the day. I hope that made sense. And there's various ways to score partial marks here. So even if you didn't get it all, you will still get partial marks. But make sure you circle your answer. Right, this is the answer. Okay, knowing this, there's one more mark up for grabs here. Calculate Maria's monthly payment. What would you do here? Come up with her payment. This is what I think you might do. Can I predict? You're going to go to your formula sheet or your study sheet, and you're going to look for, oh, there's the payment formula, right? Right? You have your payment formula. Can you use it? You don't have a table, right? You don't know what the interest rate is, so you can't do that. But guys, if this already includes the interest, this is your loan and the interest combined.
So you just have to use the term that it defines.
Yes. You just literally split this into 48 payments. That's all you had to do. So even if this number is wrong, if you took that number and divided it by 48, you still get this 1 mark for figuring out the payment. So never leave anything blank, please. Just don't do it. Give me something, and you might actually score some partial marks there. This is wrong, right? If I went 24,770 divided by 48, like if I take the loan and just divide that by 48, that's wrong, right? You can't just divide what you're borrowing. It has to include the interest. So I'm gonna bring that number here to show that that's what I'm dividing by 48. Okay. So this one is a little bit of outside the norm. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, sorry. 565.75. Yeah. The next one I want you to try first. Because there's a whole page to do this. Let's be honest. So you come up with at least one, and then I'll fill the page up with you. Explain. What does it say? What's the keyword there? Explain, not state. Let's highlight that. Explain an advantage of financing. So what's a good thing about financing as opposed to leasing it, rather than leasing it? So you're comparing it against leasing this car. Give me at least one, like write a little sentence there. Why should you be financing as opposed to leasing the car? Everybody should have something down there. You already took all my what I was going to put down. You own the car at the end and may use it to trade in or as collateral. What is that? What is collateral? Collateral is something. Yeah. What?
If you, I guess, stop making payments to a purchase that you made, they can take the car as.
Exactly. There's something standing against the money you borrowed. Yeah. Yeah. You may customize it. You can modify it, customize it. There's still one more. There's one more thing. What's a, you remember leasing one pain? There's a pain about leasing, like there's extra charges. Do you remember the mileage cost? Do you remember me talking about that? Leasing has like a limit. There's no mileage costs, right? And because it's explained, I'm going to add a bit more. You don't need to worry about limits on the kilometers you can drive. Something like that. Use your own words. We do not care. You don't need to worry about limits. Whereas leasing, you do, right? There's a restriction on the distance you can drive. And note, you can't use cheaper. If you just say cheaper, it does you would not get the marks. You would then have to give us a specific example of saying like you would have to kind of state like that the buyout plus the lease, paying all the lease payments plus possibly mileage costs, right? Or something like that. You could say it's cheaper because you don't have to worry about mileage costs, something like that. Okay, we would accept that. Some of you are writing it down. Okay. The next one, I'm quite confident you should be able to do it with a good study sheet. The next one. So can I, there's a whole page. So if you get it wrong, you just go, and then you copy down what I'm about to do. But question 4, on page 4, I know you can do that one. So give it a try. You can consult with your neighbor if you need to. Okay, when it comes to, watch what it says here. I might just read it with you once. The vehicle cost, it's used private, correct? Okay, that's all I wanted to say there because that will change taxation. And then I'm going to go over it. Okay, let's see how you did. It's a used private. The vehicle cost, the vehicle itself is 12 grand. There's a book value for 10 grand. So this car and the book value is only worth 10. And there's a $50 safety. Okay, let's see here. Calculate the total amount Luke will have to pay after tax, right? So after taxes, we need to include taxes on this. Use private, What's my long formula? It's the price. Oops, sorry. I had to look this up actually. Price plus it's price or book, right? One of the two times 0.07 plus safety times 1.05 because it's only pays GST. Then there's parts and labor. If this question mentioned parts and labor at all, you'd pay 12% on it. Plus lien, right? A lien search. If there is one, it doesn't get taxed. You remember that? So this formula actually should just help you. Let's say this question only talked about parts and labor. You know it's 12%, right? So let's see. Price is 12 grand. So we're going to put in 12,000 plus. This is the kicker. What goes in here? It's actually the price because it's bigger than the book value. So the book value is just trying to trick you here. Yeah. Safety, we do have safety. That's $50 times 1.05. And everything, this is all omit, right? Not mentioned. That's chicken scratch, right? 12,000 plus 840. I calculated this already. And this is 5250. Oh, this reminds me of a question they did a couple of years ago. I'll do this right after. So 12,000 plus 840 plus 5250. How many of you got this? Oh, that's what my calculator gives me. I'm just going to circle that. There's something wrong with it. I forgot the zero. That's right. Yeah. That's the cost of purchasing after taxes. Don't multiply by 1.12. A lot of students do this. They get to here and I think the nerves are kicking in. So they go, oh yeah, after taxes times 1.12, right? Wrong, right? Wrong. This already has taxes. Already includes taxes, okay? Already include taxes. So don't do the 1.12 thing. Question. What if this exact same question just asked you how much taxes did Luke pay? How much did Luke pay in taxes alone? I will put this down here, write this down. Taxes only. Which parts here can you identify as taxes? The 840, that's basically PST. 840 plus how much did you pay taxes on the safety? 250. So total taxes is 842.50. That's it. Because this part here does the PST on the car, and the GST, the 250, you should have been able to just fish it out of that equation and then just get it. Just in case, you never know. I wish I could tell you exactly what would be on there, but I don't. Okay. You try page 5. Go to page 5 right now. You should be able to answer that. You should honestly be able to answer that even if you kind of forgot and you don't have it on your study sheet. I believe you should be able to answer question 5. Go ahead, flip over to 5. Some of you are still writing this down. It's talking about insurance. Do you need to explain? No. So what would affect your car insurance premium? Deductible, yes. Hey, that word isn't used a whole lot, so I'm excited that you mentioned it. Was it on your study sheet? You just remembered it. Okay, good. Can I ask what the deductible is? Anybody? What's that? Andre or Colton? Andre? Just try it. It's okay.
It's like if you damage like the car, right? That's used to like
That's your portion you need to pay.
yeah.
Yeah. And in Manitoba, we have many now. It used to be 200, 500. That's it. Now we have 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. It's what you pay when you make a claim when you're at fault. If you're at fault. If you're not at fault, the other person pays the deductible, right? If it's 50-50, both of you pay the deductible. If they determine that it's half-half, both of your faults, both pay the deductible. Okay, what else? Crickets, crickets. What else would affect your car insurance? Yes, value of car. The replacement cost, right? Like how much is it going to cost Autopack to replace the car if it is damaged, right? The time, not so much, but
I mean
I think you had something there. Yeah, where you live. Yeah, where you live, where you drive. Rural Manitoba, it's going to be less, it's going to be cheaper than in the city. Yes. Um, type of car. Is it a sedan or is it a van or is it a truck? Right. Uh, purpose, right? What you use it for. Remember, there was all-purpose. What else did we have? Leisure or pleasure. Farm. And then the other one was layup. You remember layup? What layup insurance is when you just park it on your property and you're not driving it. Like let's say you go on vacation, you go for a month somewhere and you don't want to pay the full insurance, just do layup for a month or two or maybe longer. Or maybe you're in university and you can't afford insurance, you just want to park it and you're going to bus for a semester or two. Just go layup, right? Your driver rating. Driver rating, right? Merits versus demerits. Things like that. Okay. You could do third party liability. I don't know if anybody remembers third party liability. It's coverage like if you crash into a store and you actually damage their property as well as people, right? Then third party liability will cover it. The minimum is $1 million that you get anyways with any package. It's like the minimum. I would say go higher, go 2 or 3 million. It's not that much more. It's like $30-40 more a year to get more liability, right? Because if it's not covered, then it's on you. Okay. All right. Question 6. So this was just state, right? State. So we don't need to explain or go into details. That's it. Next, question 6. I'm slow. I'm too slow here. Question 6. That's okay. You decide to buy a car that you have been leasing for the past 3 years. So you're buying a car that you have been leasing for 3 years. The car had a sticker price. Anybody recognize the term sticker price? What is the sticker price again? The displayed price, but it included, I'm going to remind you, It would be base plus options plus freight. No taxes. Okay, no tax. That's important. Like the sticker price does not include exactly. It would kind of be what's displayed on what just before you're purchasing it. That's what it entails. It's 32,000 before taxes, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said. The sticker price does not have taxes, so it does say before taxes. The residual value is 40% of the sticker price. So residual value is like what's left to pay is 40% of what the sticker price is. Calculate the residual value after tax. Well, let's do this. Residual value would be 40% of the sticker price. Let's figure that out. 12,800. So that's how much you will be paying at the end if you want the car. But it says after taxes, right? How much tax would be paid? I'm curious. This is not. I believe that they weren't clear here. If you lease a car, where are you buying this from? If you lease a car, is it a private sale or is it from a dealer? It's from a dealer. And what are the taxes every time when you buy from a dealer? It's the 12%. It's the entire 12%. So let's say you draw a blank. It's exam day and you're like, oh my goodness, what is this? Go to the back. Go to the back. Go look at your formula sheet. You're going to be able to tear it out, okay? I didn't copy it properly, but this is technically one sheet that you can tear out. You just got to be careful not to destroy your exam booklet because it's not perforated. You just got to be very gentle and just rip it. Here, the taxes. When you're buying used from a dealer, because it is used when you lease it, right? It's PST and GST, so you pay both taxes. Okay? Yeah, so I'm going to come back to this. I will make a note here. Note, you lease from a dealer. Therefore, used dealer, right, will give you, you'll have to pay 12% tax. So we just take the 12,800 and we just multiply by 1.12, and there we have our taxes. So this is gonna, if you multiply by 1.12, it's the price after taxes. So this is what you want, 14,336. Okay. That's the final answer. Okay. Two more questions for vehicle finance. Make sure to write this down so you know what to do. You want to try the next one? If you're done copying, you flip to the next question and you give it a try. You read it over. Read it twice, answer once. Remember. I have an advantage, right? Like A, I've taught this many times. B, I've seen this exam before, right? So for you, it's brand new. So don't feel too overwhelmed if you're drawing a bit of a blank, because we will still review more before it's exam time, okay? Juanita buys a new car. She's responsible for the following operating costs. So, right, following our operating costs here. Cost per kilometer is $0.126 dollars per kilometer, and the monthly car payment is $350. Juanita drives 15,000 kilometers per year. Calculate, what does it say? Calculate what? The annual operating costs of the car before taxes. What does that mean before taxes? We don't worry about taxes. Okay? Don't add taxes. That's basically what is being said here. Okay. Annual means yearly. So what's the amount for the whole year? Well, let's do mileage, I will call this. Mileage cost. You take 15,000 kilometers that are driven in a year. You just multiply it by 0.126. Let's figure out what that is. $1,890. There's a price for the kilometers you drive, and like let's say you work for a company where your job is to drive around. The company may pay you, like they calculate like how much it costs on average if you include maintenance and all those things, depreciation. It's almost like the equivalent of paying, in this case, almost 13 cents per kilometer. So there's often a price put to the kilometers you drive. And you may not pay it right away, but down the road you'll pay that amount for maintenance and various other items. What about car payments? If it's $350 per month, we have to multiply this by, I hope you know it's by 12, yeah, 350 times 12. So 4,200 a year. For the payments. And what are we going to do now? By the way I see this is a mark for this, a mark for that, and another mark for just adding them up. Okay. I'm adding them up here. 6,090 before tax. By the way, why would they not want you to do taxes here? Because the monthly car payment, like that payment is already including the taxes that were calculated when you bought the car. So they would not want you to double tax, right? So they don't want students to double tax here. So this is what it is before taxes. I hope this is helping you a little bit. I'm rehashing stuff right for September. Let's remember this is September. So next, fuel economy. This other one has to do with fuel economy. I hope you remember that. We're all done copying this? Don't look so excited, guys. It's only Wednesday. On Friday, you can be excited. All right. Jafar owns a truck and a hybrid car. Watch this. The fuel economy of the truck is this much. That's actually pretty good, it being a truck. The fuel economy of the car is 3.5 liters for every 100 kilometers. He drove 17,000 kilometers last year. Calculate how much less fuel he would have used if he had driven the hybrid car instead of the truck. How in the world would you do this one? Um, do you remember? I will just say this, and some of your wheels are spinning. I see it. Do you remember the fuel economy formula? Liters divided by kilometers times 100, correct? This is to calculate, this is used to calculate your fuel economy. But we already have our fuel economy. It's this and this. We have two different fuel economies. So let's do truck here and let's do car here. Slice this in half like that. Okay, I want you to think of it this way. The truck uses what? 9.4 liters for every 100 kilometers, correct? If you have the fuel economy, set it up like that. What do we know on the other side? What can we put, like, see how kilometers are in the denominator? We are told that Jafar will drive 17,000 kilometers, correct? Where will the 17,000 go on this other side? Yeah, bottom. So what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to figure out how many liters of fuel, right? If this is true, then how many liters will you need for 17,000 kilometers? Does that make sense? So don't use the formula if the fuel economy is already given. Then it's kind of like, don't worry about it, right? You already know it. Instead, start a proportion. So how does this work again? If the variable is here, we will multiply up and divide coming down. So x is 17,000 times 9.4 divided by 100. Let's figure out how many liters that will have taken us, and I will just give you the answer. This many liters. And what are you going to do on the car side? Same thing. What's the fuel economy for the car? 3.5 for every 100 kilometers. And basically you're saying, if this is true, right, then you have to figure out how many liters will you need to drive 17,000 kilometers under these circumstances. It's going to be less, correct? I think you agree with me. It's only 3.5 liters per every 100 kilometers. That's extremely good, by the way. But it's a hybrid, so it makes sense. Anybody know? Do you know what a hybrid? What that means?
Yep. It means it uses a gas engine to charge batteries and it runs off electric.
Exactly. So it goes back and forth. Yeah. Use a combination of fuel and the engine. Then as it runs, it will charge the battery. Correct. Even when it's braking, when you brakes, that also charges the battery. This gives you 595. I'm going to say something else here. Make sure you are very careful with how you write down your numbers, that you don't think it's like a 7 later on. So very clearly write down the number. Are we done? We haven't really said how much less fuel is needed to travel with the car compared to this. We need to subtract it, yes. Less fuel would be 1598 minus 595, and that is 1,003 liters. I almost wanted to put a dollar sign in front of that. $1,003 liters. And so there you have it. 1003 is your answer. Maybe I'll make a note up here. Fuel economy is given. Set up a proportion. I would say 99% of the time when they give you a fuel economy, it's going to be set up a proportion. And that's, I mean, that you have done this since grade 10, like if not earlier already. Done a lot of proportions, so. And that concludes vehicle finance. And you know what? I'm going to leave it here. Vehicle finance is one of the longest in this booklet. So maybe it's just better that we just leave it. And then tomorrow I'll make sure you come back for precision measurement. I don't know if you want to look at it already before you go today. If you want to see like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can do a few of these. Maybe I can give it a try. And then we'll continue the next time we meet, okay? Thank you guys.